Hello and welcome to my very first video blog post. Today's blog post will cover metronome games. Now, metronome games, in short, these are just interesting ways to use a metronome to help you control time better, to play time better, to hear time differently than you might otherwise be accustomed to. But before we get into the content of this particular blog post, I want to let you know that I'm using an interesting setup right now. So I'm using my iPad Pro, my iPad, and my iPhone with an app called Reco Live's Multicam. And this is helping me get various camera feeds so you can see what I'm doing, both with my drum and also with my metronome, so you get a better understanding of the various aspects of this blog post. But anyway, going back to the idea of metronome games, I first learned about this idea from my college or undergraduate university professor, Mr. Jeff Moore from the University of Central Florida, and he taught me these tricks to help me play time more consistently, or help me to be able to recover when I make mistakes more consistently, or if I would hear a metronome click, to hear it in various parts of the rhythm and at different times, so that I could understand and perform rhythm one more consistently, or two, just to kind of push my rhythmic abilities a little bit more. I also heard about it from this video later in life when I was learning how to study drum set. This is Benny Greb's The Art and Science of Groove. This is an amazing video. Now understand this is produced mainly for the drum set, but there's some concepts in here that can apply to the baritone, so I highly recommend it. If you want to go out, pick it up, check it out. It's a great DVD. I'll leave links for both Benny Greb's DVD and the Reco Live Multicam app at the bottom of this blog post. But anyway, let's get into the blog post. So normally, when we use metronomes, we use it just to mark every single pulse. So if I go to the metronome here, we're going to start with a basic real rhythm. Dunka taka, or this particular rhythm. 1, 2, and here I go, and so forth. Now if I take this and apply it to the metronome, most of the time if we practice, turn on the met to the metronome marking that we want. In this case, it's quarter note equals 80 beats per minute, and turn it on. And that metronome's going to mark every single downbeat, every single pulse with which we are going to play. So it would sound like this with the drum. 1, 2, and here we go, and so forth. So what I want to try to do here is, the idea is that this metronome is going to mark every single downbeat, and after a while can get a little bit boring, especially if we're hearing every downbeat all the way through a phrase or even an entire piece of music. So to challenge myself more, and maybe force myself to be more attentive to how I control every single beat between pulses, I'm actually going to take this metronome and put it in half. We started at 80 and we went down to 40. So now the metronome is going to mark every single beat 1. So if we start the met, we hear this. And we hear it as 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. With the drum, it's going to sound like this. 1, 2, here we go. Now, as I was playing, as I'm sure that you guys could hear, I don't have perfect time, but the metronome does. So what it forces me to do is, as I'm playing, if I have to make some small adjustments just to make sure that I'm on the met, I may have to speed up a little, slow down a little, it forces me to control my time to get my rhythms to fit a perfect timekeeping source. So that last setting, we set it to every beat 1. So we can keep it on the same metronome marking, 40 beats per minute, but instead of hearing it as every beat 1, now we can hear it as every beat 2. So instead, it's like this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. With the drum, it'll sound like this. 1, 2, here we go, and so forth. And as I'm sure you heard with the click of the metronome in my own playing, I had to make a very small adjustment on that very first beat 2 in order to get right on the met. And again, my timing's not perfect, the met's is, but that's the value of this. It helps me create an instantaneous awareness of whether I'm slow or fast, and then do what I have to do to gradually correct and get right on with the metronome. So now, the other thing that we can do is, instead of just playing off the downbeats, either beats 1 and 2, or just beat 1, or just beat 2, is to start playing with the space between those beats. So to show you what I'm talking about with that, I'm going to go back to the metronome. I'm going to reset it to 80 clicks per minute. So once we're at 80, normally we would hear this as every single downbeat, every single beat 1 and 2. We'd get this, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. But instead, I now want to hear this as an upbeat eighth note. So it's going to get this. 1, 2, 1, 2. You can hear where the click is between where I'm counting the downbeat or the pulse. Start that back up. Come back to the drum. It'll look and sound like this. 1, 2, here we go, and. And so forth. Now, if I really want to challenge myself, I can try this. There are various ways to count a reel. Some people will count it 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's just two of a number of ways. For the purposes or the sake of this example, I'm going to count it 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, or 1 E and a, 2 E and a. So before, with the previous examples, we either put that click on beat 1 or on that third beat for the upbeat eighth notes. I'm actually going to try to move the click to the So what the click is going to do is 1 E and 2 E and 1 E and 2 E and I have to play the downbeat off of that. So I'm displacing that click to the fourth 16th note after it to try and get to play along with it. What that's going to sound like is this. So I'm going back to the metronome, and that beat's going to become so I get this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. With the drum, it's going to sound like this. And so forth. And as you heard, I had to make a little bit of adjustment to make sure that that upstroke that lined up with the click was right with it. But the idea is, again, is that this is just ways to get me to hear time differently, to adjust my rhythms to the metronome, to help me just in general improve my time by manipulating various aspects of the rhythms that I'm playing. Now, to take this idea and apply it to a jig, we would do this. So I'm going to go back to this metronome shot real quick, and I'm going to bump it up to dotted quarter note equals 92 beats per minute, and we get this pulse. So with this, we're going to hear this as every beat 1, 2, 1, 2 for a jig. So if I take a simple jig pattern on the drum, it'll sound like this. 1, 2, here I go. And so forth. Now, just like we did with the reel earlier, we're going to now take the idea of playing every other beat 1. So we go back to the metronome, and we're going to get this. Take our 92, have it, and it takes us down to 46 beats per minute. Oh, went the wrong direction. 46 beats per minute. So with 46 beats a minute put on, and that click's now going to become every beat 1. So what we get with the drum is this. 1, 2, 1, 2. As you could probably hear with the metronome, is I pushed my timing just a little bit and had to make some adjustments to get right back on with it. So we're going to go back to the Met, keep the setting the same, but now instead of hearing it as every beat 1, we're going to hear it as every beat 2. So we get this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Go back to the drum and make it every beat 2. 1, 2, here we go. And so forth. And as I'm sure that you heard again, because my timing is not perfect, I had to make some small adjustments to get that back on time. Excuse me real quick. So anyway, going back to the metronome, just the idea with the reel, we are trying to put the metronome on odd clicks, that count of 1 E and 2 E and We can do that same concept with the jig. So instead with the jig, instead of going on every downbeat, we're going to put it on the third note. So instead of going 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and we're going to put the click on the and get 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and it's going to work like this. So I'm going to go back to the metronome, bump it back up to our original tempo of 92 beats per minute, and establish it. So earlier we were hearing 1, 2, 1, 2. Since we're using this as the count of the third of every 3 notes, it's now going to be heard like this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And to show you what that sounds like with the baron, it's going to go like this. 1, 2, here we go. and so forth. Now again, these are just some interesting and creative ways that you can either have the tempo that you're using to help you help you control time better between pulses or displace your rhythms, but it's just another really good practicing tactic that you can apply to your own playing in order to help you improve your timing. But again, thank you very much. If you have any questions, please feel free to get a hold of me via the contact information that is on my website. It should be in contact in the toolbar above. I'll leave links for Recco Live's Multicam and the Benny Greb Art and Science of Groove video below. Thank you for your time. Have a great day. Bye.